I'm going to talk about a little bit more about this Steyr rifle. Now, I was asked the other day by a chap I met at a terrier show, who also does a lot of air gunning, and he knew that I shot the Steyr, that I had a Pro X and a Hunting 5, and he brought up quite an interesting point by saying that he'd never seen in any of the air gunning magazines or on any of the bigger sort of more commercial YouTube channels anyone ever review either a Hunting 5 or the Pro X. And his point was, are they any good? Because they're not in the magazines. None of the magazine hunters, the regular contributors to the magazines, use them. You never see them on the larger YouTube channels that review stuff continuously, almost monthly. And he was wondering if that's because they're no good or what the reason was behind it. So I thought I'd make this video and explain why you more than likely will never see a review in a magazine of either the Hunting 5 or this Pro X. And the reasons are this. If you're running a monthly magazine, obviously they review on average probably what, World, Air and Shooter and all the rest of them. They probably review 2 or 3 rifles every month, along with a couple of scopes, maybe some kit, some clothes, tripods, bipods, rangefinders, stuff like that. Now if you think about it, if they have to buy every month all that kit, it's going to cost them a small fortune. You know, average decent air rifle these days, probably 1,500 quid. So you've got 3 of them. That's 4.5 grand before you even start. Decent scope, another grand. So before you know where you are, you're looking at sort of 8, 9, maybe more £1,000 every month just to buy new stuff to review in the magazine. Financially, that is not going to happen. Same with these YouTube channels that continually review a different rifle all the time. The reason that they can do what they do is that the bigger companies, BSA, Gammo, Steyr, Air Arms, Hatsan, and Hull Cartridge, which import Viralk and stuff like that, when they get a new product, they send samples of that product to these magazines to be reviewed, obviously because it's free advertising. You know, you get their rifle in, their latest rifle in the magazine, gets a review, people know about it, generates interest, sales go up. And that's the way that they can afford to do what they do. Now, that might appear to be a win-win situation because the manufacturer wins because they get their latest product out there. And if you think about it, a full-page advert probably costs, I don't know, in a mainstream magazine, 600-700 quid, perhaps even more. And people, generally speaking, tend to skip adverts. They buy the magazines for the articles, not so much for the adverts. So if you're paying 700 or 800 quid for a full-page advert for your new rifle, new telescopic sight, or new whatever, it's cheaper and more cost-effective to send one off as a freebie to be reviewed, even if you want it back, so you can send it to several different magazines, testers to be used, keep it for months. It makes more economic sense to send one off. So everyone looks like they're in a win-win. The magazines can review all the new kit for next to nothing. The manufacturer wins because he gets free advertising for all his rifles. And the other thing they do is they will find regular contributors to these magazines, mainly hunters, and they will make them what they call ambassadors. Sometimes they do it up front, sometimes it's a slightly more, not underhand, but it's not a publicised ambassadorial role. So someone like Air Arms will have someone as an ambassador. And what they basically do is they supply them with free or heavily discounted kit, and they use that for hunting in their articles. So they may not even be talking about that particular rifle, but they'll be using it constantly in all the photographs, all the Instagram, any YouTube posts they make. So for the sake of, I don't know, even a decent top quality air arms rifle probably only costs to actually make probably 500 quid tops, I would have thought. So for giving someone, a well-known writer, a 500 quid rifle, you're going to get publicity for as long as he's using it. So it could be months. And it doesn't just happen with airgun, it happens everywhere. A friend of mine's a top-notch cyclist, really well known, in fact, ex-British champ. And he gets his bikes, his kit, his clothes, all that supplied for nothing, because they appear in all his, every time he's in a magazine or whatever, or his YouTube or Instagram or on the telly, you know, they get free advertising. So it makes sense commercially to supply these people with kit. So everyone looks like they win. The magazines get free stuff to test. We win because we get to be able to read about all the latest kit. And the select group of hunters win because they get all their gear for nothing. Just on the understanding that they use it and use it in the photos. So it sounds hunky-dory and great. The trouble is, obviously, if you're running a commercial business, like a magazine or a YouTube channel, or you're one of the hunters, you're not going to want to say anything negative about what you're receiving, because you don't want to cheese off your supplier. Because if you pee Daystate off or whatever by saying that their new rifle's a load of rubbish, or BSA or Gamma or any of them, then they're going to be reluctant to send you the next new model to test. They're going to send it somewhere else. And you're going to miss out, and that's going to hit your sales. So what tends to happen is, very, very rarely do you read or get negative comments on anything that's tested. And it's just natural, because they don't want to lose out commercially. You know, no one wants to cut their own throat, so they want to make sure they keep in with these big companies so they continually get a free range and test the kit. Now, I'm not saying that they don't sometimes point the finger at certain faults, which they do, but they do it in a very sort of padded out, gentle way. And then they usually rebut it with a but it's not that bad or whatever. But they rarely, you know, if something's really not up to the job, they won't say it. They'll either not review it at all, or they'll pad it out or skirt over the issue for commercial reasons, which makes sense. Now, some companies will not give out rifles to test, and I think Steyr is probably one of them. Steyr UK do not supply, as far as I'm aware, rifles for nothing or on loan to be tested and put in any magazine or on any YouTube channel. If you want a Steyr to test or to use or to hunt with, unfortunately you have to go out and buy one. It's as simple as that. You've got to buy one. And you know, also their sales, they don't advertise much either. But there again, if you look at the world of cars, to draw a comparison, Ford, Vauxhall, Fiat, Peugeot, all of those mainstream companies constantly advertising on telly, in the papers, and they're everywhere. Magazines, all the time, everyone's testing them. Whereas Rolls-Royce, Bugatti, Ferraris, McLaren, you never see an advert for those. And the reason is they don't need to, because their products are sold on word of mouth and people just know that they're a good product, so they don't need to bother advertising. And they also have a slightly smaller numbers going to market. And it's likewise with Steyr. You know, you've only got to go to a HFT or a field target shooting competition to see the huge numbers of Steyr LG 110 rifles in all the various formats being used. You know, there's loads and loads of them, they're everywhere. And yet, when did you ever see a review in a magazine of the latest LG 110? You don't. You'll see them in the pictures when they go to do field target competitions, or when they announce the results, but they don't get reviewed. So just because something's not reviewed in magazines or not reviewed on the mainstream YouTube channels doesn't mean that it's not a good product or that it's not worth looking at. It just means that commercially, the company that make them has decided that they're not going to give away free rifles to hunters to put on Instagram or their YouTube channels or in magazines, and they're also not going to supply them free to magazines to be reviewed. They've not got anything to hide, they've just made a commercial decision that that's not the way that they're going to go. So just because you never see a review of this rifle anywhere other than the smaller tiny YouTube channels like my own and a few others, and obviously the manufacturer will release a certain number of videos to pull their own kit up. But the only place you'll see a lot of them is the small time chap that's gone out and bought one and decided to review it. Such is the case here with my Steyrs. It's not for commercial gain, it's not for commercial reasons, I'm not trying to sell anything. I bought one with my own money at full price, didn't get a discount, everything's up front. You just cannot get a discount, you cannot get a freebie, you won't. And then we review them, and if they're rubbish, we'll tell you. The smaller YouTube channels are actually sometimes probably the best place to start hunting around if you want the absolute truth on a certain rifle. I made a mistake, a fatal error with the Red Wolf. Cost me a lot of money, and unfortunately I fell for all the flannel and bull and ball, and I'll be honest, my Day State Renegade, I love that rifle. It's a brilliant rifle, best trigger I've ever used, a lovely gun. Red Wolf had the same trigger, but it had all them electrical gizmos on board that in the field made no difference at all. On the target range at 70 foot-pounds muzzle energy, possibly will do. You'll get more shots, but hey, how many times do you go out hunting and fire 300 shots? You don't. And most people that have got an expensive PCP have got their own cylinder or a pump, so recharging them after 50 shots is no real hassle. And then you got that god awful cutout thing that was a nightmare, and all in all I ended up getting rid of it, and it cost me, it cost me money. So if you want a truthful review, sometimes yes, the magazines are great and they do bring out all the new features, the new rifles, but take what you read, what you hear with a tiny pinch of salt, because remember, it's a commercial venture. It's a two-way commercial street. They get free stuff to review, and in return they're not going to be massively critical. They either won't review them, or they'll, if it's got any faults, it'll be padded out and all completely flitted over. So just be careful. And just remember, like this Steyr, if you don't see it advertised, if you don't see it in the magazines, it doesn't mean it's no good. This is, I've got to say, the best hunting rifle I have ever owned so far. And obviously I say so far because you never know what they're going to do next. But so far, this has been the best. It's a superb rifle. It's super accurate, 10 shots, semi-auto. And for a sub 12 foot-pound air rifle, it's the best hunting gun I've had. And I always caveat that with saying sub 12 foot-pound. Because when you start getting up to 50 foot-pound or 70 foot-pound, then some of the other rifles have a distinctive edge, because then an electronically regulated action like the Red Wolf in the higher powers is a definite advantage, because rather than getting 20 or 30 shots, or maybe even not even that at some of the really high powers, you're going to stretch that out to a usable quantity. And that, I think, is where the Red Wolf and some of the other Day State rifles and some of the rifles now that are hitting the scene, some of the FXs, they're more aimed at the American market, and they're crammed full of features that are really, really useful if you're shooting them at higher than 12 foot-pound. But below 12 foot-pound are a waste of time. The majority of regulated actions on the actual shooting range, out in the field, make comparatively little difference. In fact, almost none at all to the accuracy of the rifle. And likewise, these variable power things that you see on rifles now that become more and more popular, complete waste of time on a 12-foot pound rifle. So just beware what you read and what you see. And thanks for watching.